Glad that you're joining us for the Tuesday, February 17th meeting of the Finance Committee of CCWD. Would you all please rise and join me in the pledge? We began. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States Republic. God. At some point, I'm going to have you all stand and I'll sing the national anthem.
Every day you'd like.
Okay.
As long as we don't have to sing along, that'd be great.
You could, my most enjoyable renditions are the ones that people join in, sing like you mean it. So.
Unless you haven't heard me sing.
Doesn't matter. Okay, moving on to item number 1, public comment. We have any public online? We do? Say that again?
No public comment.
Okay. I thought Michael said that there was somebody.
There are people online.
Oh, okay, but no public comment. All right. And I don't suppose that anybody here wants to make a public comment, but could we look at the possibility of approving the minutes of the last meeting, January 20th? Okay, moved and seconded by me. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that takes care of that. Going on to new business, we have a report on the monthly financial reports for January 2026. Ide Bailey.
Yes, ideally.
Ide Bailey, good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good afternoon to the committee. So just before I get started, I want to say this will be the last budget status report in the current format. We are very excited to bring you a new format starting next month. So if there are any other changes that you think of during this meeting, feel free to let me know, and I'm happy to incorporate them and present it to you next month. But diving right into the January 2026 budget status report as is, this is for periods 1 through 7, so a good chunk of the fiscal year has concluded. The target benchmark for this month is 58%. And starting with the operating revenues, currently the district is at 58.51%, so right on target. The primary change from last month was the receipt of property taxes. That was just over $1.7 million, which was 56.34% of what was budgeted for property taxes. We're continuing to keep an eye on these, the accounts that are currently trending over, and we will be incorporating and refining those into the fiscal year 27 budget as we get started on that development. But if there are no questions on revenues, we can move on.
Could I interrupt you for just 1 second?
Of course.
As I was perusing these documents, the period 7, I have a question mark on that. I mean, to me, it might be worthwhile to just put 7th month instead of period 7. I'm not sure that everyone that reviews these documents would be knowledgeable enough about our lingo to conclude that that's 7 months of a 12-month budget.
Right.
Just a suggestion.
Okay. Yeah.
Chair, I have a quick question as well. On budget item 54610, we talk about higher income. It's not a huge amount of numbers, but I was curious. What is it's higher because of anticipated due to Cal card rebates? I'm not familiar with the Cal card rebate, and I know this isn't a big number, so can somebody just tell me what that is really quick?
I don't have the specifics of that. I don't know if a district staff could chime in for that.
The line number again, sorry.
Cal card, what's a Cal card rebate? Is that like a what's in your wallet?
Yeah, so we use Cal cards as our purchase cards.
Right.
And
And they give us a feedback.
I didn't
a
think they
reward?
did. I'll have to look into that. We'll have to get back to you on that.
It is not a big deal. I just don't know what it is.
I know at one point we were looking at switching. Small return. Okay.
That must be it. I mean, it's
Yeah,
only
so there's like a
15,000 bucks, but. Okay, thank you.
right.
And we use that for airline miles.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
continue, please.
Course. Moving on to non-operating revenue, so all other funds. It's currently just over 14 million, and the majority of that is, of course, the transfers in line item for 11.8 million. However, these funds did receive their share of property taxes for special project funding as well. And then moving down to the operating expenses. So overall, the district is at 57.69. So just under target of 58% benchmark. And again, we discussed some of this with the mid-year budget, but salaries and wages continue to trend under budget due to vacancies. And then there are timing issues with when invoices are received. So if they're short 1 month, or it's paid in advance, or it's paid once a year, there are timing issues that can affect the target benchmark for these line items. However, we have called those out specifically in the department expense reports. So if we can move down to starting with Department 50. This one continues to trend under budget at 36.87%. However, that's primarily due to the debt repayment line item. So those debts are paid at specific times throughout the fiscal year, and the majority have not been paid yet. So that is skewing the total to the benchmark comparison for this department.
You lost me when you mentioned Department 50. What page are we on with that discussion?
8.
8?
Mm-hmm. So that's at 36.87% for Department 50, which is non-departmental.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, of course. And then for Department 54, so this is slightly under budget at 53.02% on page 9. However, we have called out any line items that are trending over budget at this time. I believe in December, there are the payouts for the employees, so that did increase a couple line items within this department as well.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
On all these budgets, we've got a account type that reads Y13 that is generally looks like it's used for miscellaneous operating expenses. I'm having a hard time in my mind pulling all these pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
So like on this one, I know in some of them it's got credit card fee processing debt. There's just a lot of stuff in there, and they seem to all be trending behind. Is that because that's where we just put a lot of our potpourri of expenses, or can you unpack that a little bit for me?
Yeah, I think it can be difficult with miscellaneous operating expenses to predict what that will be. However, that is something that we are analyzing as we develop the fiscal year 27 budget, is historically looking at those line items and what falls into them, and possibly seeing if maybe there's a better place for them. But as far as the specifics, I think we would have to look at it a little bit more to be able to come back with a specific response for that.
Yeah, for that one, it looks like it's state water and sewer fees that are causing the overage there, which to me is something we probably doesn't need to be miscellaneous. I know we have a mandated plans line and water resources. We have other fees that we pay to the state that are more specifically defined. So there may be an opportunity there for us to break that out in some more detail.
I would appreciate that, because in all these budgets per department, they've got that Y13. Some of those sums are pretty big, and some of them are off. And it seems like at $500,000, we should be breaking it down a little bit more.
Especially if it's something like a state fee that we incur every year. It's not miscellaneous. At that point, it's something we should expect. And so let's see if we can find it.
Just take a sniff at it. It's not a problem. Nothing's broken here.
Yeah, and the other part of what we are working on for the district is identifying each line item and preparing a narrative for it. So what is included in each line item, just for more transparency and easier understanding of what goes into the budget.
Right, the notes are great. Notes really make a difference. I
They do.
appreciate this.
Yeah, very much.
Okay, moving down to Department 56, so general management. It's trending just under budget at 56.41%. This is on page 10. There are a couple line items that are trending above that we'll continue to keep an eye on. But overall, it's on target with the benchmark of 58%. And then Department 57 is Board of Directors, and that continues to trend under budget at 51.95%. The only line item there that is trending over budget is the other travel costs, and we'll correct that in the future, the fiscal year 27 budget.
We have a couple of new directors that may significantly impact that account.
Right, and we will take that into
Traveling
consideration.
and
I live 24 miles from here, round trip.
and Ratterman always charges $1 a meeting or something for travel. Not very far away. Anyway, continue, please.
Okay, Department 58 is engineering. This one is significantly under budget. It's at 25.8%. So that is something that we'll be evaluating just to see what may need to be refined within that budget. Couple line items that are over budget for materials and supplies and publications and subscriptions, but they're fairly small dollar amounts in terms of the variance. And then Department 59, Administrative Services. So it appears that this department is significantly over budget at 174.69. However, that transfer outline item is causing that skewed percentage. Without that line item, I think my rough math was about 56%. So just on target, or just below target at 56 compared to a 58% benchmark. But again, that transfer out line item is just skewing that total there.
We'll talk about the, I think we could talk about the miscellaneous operating expenses, which is the, is a lot of those credit fees, and we'll talk about lockbox and all that in the next agenda item. I'm very curious about how that all works. But again, we have another Y13 miscellaneous on this one.
Right. Yeah. We'll definitely look into that one. And then finally for Department 60, it's trending just under budget at 54.84%. Couple of line items there that are trending over that we'll continue to keep an eye on. If there are any other questions, I'm happy to answer them at this point.
Just a really quick question. Michael, this has been answered for me at least twice, so I apologize. The hydro fund. What is in the hydro fund again?
So there's
It's not a big one, but
it's a combination of things. So a lot of it, I think the biggest item is reimbursable. Okay, so FERC fees, water board fees, DSOD fees, things like that, that we pay, that we are then MID or NCPA. But there also is a portion of staff salaries, probably very minimal materials and supplies in there, and then revenue that we receive. And then actually the big expenditure there, other than those fees, that's also where our ATR.
and the interest reserve is, I assume, to pay debt. Hydro interest reserve?
Yeah, we don't have any debt on the hydro fund yet, but that's where
But that 2.5 million is there for.
that's the water resources hydro licensing.
Thank you. That's what I figured it was. Thank you. Oh,
Okay. So we are more or less on target with most of these accounts, as I see. So
Yeah,
tell-
I mean, the engineering one jumps out at me. It's definitely something we have to drill into. It's interesting because on one hand, when we're understaffed, we tend to use professional services more. But on the other hand, there's less our staff can. So that works against it. So, but we'll, as Kimiko said, as we develop the budget for next year, we're going to take a close look at that and see where we need to be. It's, if it's cost savings, that's great. It's work that we need to do that's not getting, that's an issue. So
Is this new format that you mentioned earlier? I was allowed to take a glance at what appears to be a new format where these accounts and the associated values are going to sum from top to bottom instead of having a lump sum at the top and then have to subtract all the items below. That is very, I don't know, confusing to me. So looking forward to that change.
Of course.
Okay. Yeah. Are there any questions online about this portion of the report? Okay. I'm sorry.
Online question for Mike.
Okay, Mr. Rogers, I understand that you have a question about the Eide Bailey report.
No, I just want to, thank you for the report, and just give a shout out to Kevin Williams. I don't know what he's doing to stay so far under budget, but seems to me that he's doing a lot more with less. And kudos to Kevin and the job they're doing. I know they've got quite a workload, and so I just want to give a shout out to Kevin for a job well done so far. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the comment, and we'll pass it along. Okay, let's move on to item 3B, discussion regarding the district's credit and debit card fees.
Okay, so we worked with district staff recently to calculate the current recovery rate for credit and debit card fees. So currently, your customers are charged a 3.9% convenience fee for any card payments. And as of our calculation, the 3.9% fee recovers 82% of the district's processing costs. The target recovery rate of 85% would require a 3.94% convenience fee to be applied to all of those card payments. The other thing that we looked at was we did make sure to incorporate the reduced contract rate that was set with Global Pay. So this does reflect that change as well. And then if the district were to move to a monthly billing structure, there would need to be additional evaluation as there are per transaction fees that are associated with various payment methods. So we would need to reassess that fee moving forward if the district moved to monthly billing.
Thank you. I have no complaint about increasing this by 0.04%. I mean, but I think it's a great opportunity to talk about credit card convenience fees and all these fees that, they obviously add up. I mean, our budget's got about $500,000 we collect money on, we send it out. I mean, it's kind of jumbled for how we pay for all this, but it's a lot of money, bottom line. I was looking at, and this kind of ties into the next agenda item, we're talking about billing. And we've got about, looks by my numbers, about 1,700 customers that pay either credit card or bring their check in or some way other than a lockbox or e-check to our accounts. And that's obviously adding up to a lot of money. So tell me a little bit about what percentage of, we've got such a great sign up for our online monitoring. You said it was about 70+%, which is pretty impressive. So can we talk a little bit about how we're working to move people from credit card payments, more e-checks, direct payments, lockbox, things that don't cost our consumers money or our organization money? How have we been thinking about that? Because this is obviously a monster that's been growing for a while. Doesn't seem to be dying off. So that's my question.
So you might want to help with some of that, but I can tell you, and just for some background, this came up the credit card surcharge came up a few years ago when we noticed that line item really starting to increase.
Right.
And credit card fees were increasing. And so board felt like we needed to pass that through since it's kind of a customer benefit, but only for certain
Right.
customers that use that. And so that's where this came about. And the goal was, we didn't want to overshoot. We're not trying to make money.
Right.
We didn't want to collect more than the cost to the district. But I think at the time we were looking at trying to recover the 85%. I think we're close to that now, and there's some other moving pieces right now. So I don't know if we necessarily need to change percentage at this point until we see how the other changes are playing out, especially if it's such a small amount.
Right.
But where I do think it's worth revisiting is right now we don't have an online way to pay without any charge. And that normally not necessarily normally, what some agencies will do is if you pay through the ACH, which doesn't incur the credit card surcharge fees, transaction $2 per
Right.
transaction. We recover that because that's the charge actually less than the charge that we get from per transaction.
Right.
But if we wanted to incentivize more of that and give customers an option to pay online, free option to pay online, that would probably be the way to go. But in the past, trying to recover as much of that cost as possible. And so that's where we went with now where we don't, it's not a free.
It seems like, as I was just doing math, it seems like a great task for the External Affairs Committee, but really trying to figure out how we promote. I mean, all the companies, my insurance company, everybody's trying to get me to go online, go paperless.
Yeah.
When I look at postage costs, in addition to time costs, talk more about, and these fees, it seems like something that might be beneficial to us financially to make a real effort to reduce the amount of people who are paying with credit cards or sending in checks, things that cost money. And maybe, if we put an effort in there, maybe we'd spring loose, reduce our costs to us and our consumers. It seems like it's worth figuring it out, and I don't have the answers.
It's a great question. What is the most efficient way to do it for us, customer? And I know we did a lot of outreach when we first transitioned to the system that we have now. And then I know that the customer service reps, for example, try to educate people in every interaction that we have where the customer would benefit from signing up for the customer portal and making payments online. We're always trying to provide more education. My understanding is, Kelly, I think you were telling me that our participation rate is much higher than the industry standard.
But I just think it would really, it might be something that really makes a difference.
Yeah.
And maybe there's something the finance committee could take on. I mean, if we took a little hit and it came out to a larger return down the road, we gave everybody some sort of incentive. What AT&T was trying to get me to stop sending me letters this morning, and I think they gave me like a 10% discount for a couple months. Wasn't that much, but moved me.
As you see in the next item, posting and printing is a significant.
Right. So I see how these tie together. I have no further questions on this item. I'll go deeper on the next one.
Okay, well, I just wanted to point out to you, because you are fairly new here, that, gosh, I think it was 6 or 7 years ago, it came to the board's attention that it was costing us $65,000 a year to take payments with credit card. We weren't getting anything back for it. So
And then it started to go up quickly. 85, and then it went.
So we're faced with a decision about whether we exercise fiscal responsibility and start allowing the customers to pay for that convenience. And then it sort of recoiled against us because people didn't like it. But we're just trying to be fiscally responsible.
And there are agencies that just it as an operating expense because they want to incentivize any sort of action. So there's a mix out there.
Yeah.
I think having a surcharge, I think where the board, where we came down on it, credit card surcharges just keep getting bigger and bigger. Try to recoup some of that, but also find pathways for people to save.
Yeah. If we can do that, that'd be great. And maybe that's not all in our purview. It might be a good, internal affairs committee.
Okay, I don't have any questions on this, but perhaps do we have someone online that would like to comment on this?
No online public comment.
All right. Then let's move on to item 3C, discussion regarding the bi-monthly billing costs versus monthly billing costs.
We probably could have combined those. That was a nice segue into it. There's some
Close
definite,
enough. There's only 5 of us in the room. We can.
yeah, some definite overlap, and I'll try to touch on some of those questions. The more I've dove into the use of the portal, I'm kind of seeing two different. When I first reported that, I was giving it a total. I can see definitely some folks are using it specifically just for auto pay and just payments, and not really utilizing it for some of the leak detection functions and those. And so I'm kind of seeing two different groups, and I'd like to see both of those increase. And we're definitely seeing an increase on the auto pay, and I'll get to those numbers here in a minute. I was trying to look back in our historical records to see if we ever did bill monthly, and it appears we did. And I kind of went down a fun resolution rabbit hole that I like to go down. And I found something in 1972 where it referenced, from here forward, we'll call it bi-monthly, not monthly, but it wasn't really the resolution that said we will now start adopting, a bi-monthly structure. But I want to find that. But at some point we did bill monthly a long time ago. So 1972, it looks like there was some talk about switching. I can kind of go through this, or if you guys have reviewed it, if you want to just jump in with some questions, if you prefer. I can kind of go over basically cycle one, kind of how some of the process that we do now. Of course, we have 2 different cycles. Cycle 1 is Jenny Lynn, Rancho, Calaveras, Wallace, and Copper Cove. And cycle 2 is Ebbets Pass and Sheep Ranch. And like I said here, that usually starts around the 15th. And we pretty much pinged the system yesterday for the Ebbets Pass reads. And that kind of tells us what's reading and what's not. And over the next few days, we'll be putting out the billing on the 23rd. So between now and then, the folks out in the field are going to have to go make those reads that we didn't get through the system.
Of course. Yeah.
Thank you. I was reading that, and I also read back through Tyler's June, their upgrade. There's process update that they gave us. Explain to me why we're going and reading these systems manually through the Centrix AMI system.
Well, sometimes it depends on like I just checked the communication this morning with Centrix, and within 3 days, it was reading at just over 96%. So we were getting all the reads for that route, 96 percentile. And so then it gives you a couple different, then there's how many reads you're going to get within the 7 days, maybe even 14 days. And so it depends. When we had that fog a while ago where it was foggy for about 3 weeks straight, remember that? A lot of the solar systems lost some power. And so that actually went down to 72%. So if I'm pinging the system as of yesterday, a few of those might not read. And that's why, so we had, as of today, 238 that the crews are going to have to go out there and hand read them. And for instance,
Just can't transmit because of snow or weather or
different
something.
various reasons. Like right now, I think we have a collector down in Sheep Ranch. So right now that's not connecting. So, but if the guys go out there with their handheld device, they will pick up those reads.
Not each, is it centered in a central reader, or do they have to drive by everybody's?
Oh, there's, the repeaters are, in different locations, but then they have this device, and I'm not sure exactly what that's pinging, but that's talking directly to the meter. So they'll have to go to a certain area where you'll have that signal, and you can then pull all those in.
When we have to send somebody out, is because we got a telemetry issue.
Yeah. And really right now they only have, I think, 12 just physical reads where maybe those meters that aren't in the system yet, like whether they had a new meter and we haven't commissioned it yet. So their actual physical hand reading is really low. I think there's 12. And even some of those, I checked them when I ran the report yesterday. I checked them this morning and then they read. So there's that difference sometimes. So some of those, they won't have to go out and read. And thankfully, because when I called the crew up there today, they've got 18 inches to 2 feet of snow
They're
up
busy.
there. And so that's some of that delay that, you know, we'll need to get those reads by next week on Monday when I actually run the billing.
But
Okay, that
it
makes
still
sense.
works in the snow, which is
Yeah.
different than, you know, so up until a couple of years ago, when we had snow on the pass, we just didn't read, and it might be 2, maybe even 3 billing cycles. So 6 months of consumption would all get pushed bill all at one time, because couldn't physically.
We could read them now through the snow.
For the most part, we can read them through the snow.
Yeah, like I said, as of this morning, it was at 96, 96 and some change % of healthy reads, the communication system within the last 3 days.
In the
So-
June Tyler report, we talked about business process, updating that, synchronizing or changing the software so that they're able to do these inputs easier. Has Tyler delivered that? It was one of their mode products.
Yeah, I mean, right now Dylan's working really, you know, quite well with Tyler, and we had a meeting with them last week as part of that business process review for this, and they were wonderful to work with. It was actually really great. They helped us with a few things, and there was a function in there that they weren't aware that we were able to even do, and I showed them, and she said, "You guys shouldn't even be able to do that yet. That's still in beta. That's still being tested." But I was able to run the report and say, "Here's the reads," and so they've been really helpful, and I've really enjoyed working with them. They're helping us quite a bit.
So we're getting better. We're
I
improving.
think so. I think quite a bit. Yeah. And, you know, I'll talk about that later on when I talked about the customer service, you know, hourly, how long it takes for these. I think right now there's some learning, we're kind of in the middle of a learning curve.
Mhm.
I think those numbers will improve. Running the numbers yesterday, running that process wasn't too bad. And we were quite pleased to actually see the amount, the lower amount of handheld reads that will be needed. I believe last cycle back in December, it might have been in the 400 range. And so to get down to that 238,
Right.
we were pleased to see that. And again, that's still, the system still can, you know, read, you know, they're not going to have to like necessarily pop that meter box open and read it manually. It's just, they'll have to get closer to the infrastructure.
Someone out with the truck and a reader.
Yeah, and some of the costs that the ops department provided kind of talks about that. You know, it's easier for one guy to drive. I mean, towards the tail end of my time out in the field, you know, we can go on a high point and you can bring it up and get a whole bunch of meters because you just were able to get, you know, the signals. So they can get a lot of those pretty rapidly if it's, you know, you're strategically located out in the system.
And how do they communicate that information to you?
That there's a work order in Centrix, and then it will upload all those reads, and then we'll just pull those over. And then once I have all the reads from them, then I kind of go through and spot check. You know, there's still going to be some interesting anomalies. Like there's some that we have these really minute hydraulic kind of backflows, and they're not really backflow, but it just kind of pulls like, let's say there's an idle meter at, for instance, up at Big Trees Market, there's a bunch of meters that have zeros on them. But when you have high usage, those are so sensitive, it'll kind of just do like 1/100th of a cubic foot backwards and read 999.99. And so that shows like a negative read. So I just polish that data and fix it because that's really all that is. So there's a few of those that we have to clean up for the billing process. It's pretty minor, but there's still some manual, or else Tyler will think that the meter went all the way around and have like 9 million cubic feet, you know, something unrealistic. So you know, you can kind of tell what those are. And so that's, once they have all the reads, then I'll go through and clean them. Tyler gives you warnings and errors. And basically errors are, you cannot run the billing process without clearing up those errors. And that might be a no read or something. And then for all the warnings, you can preset those anomalies at basically a predefined amount of, you know, saying 75% more or less than the like time period of this year and last year. You know, that they'll take this year's reads, you know, last month and this month, and then compare them to last year at the same time, that, you know, and then divide it by 2. And then you set that percentage. And so we'll spot check it and see if there's any high reads or just things that don't make sense.
You mentioned earlier a figure that kind of stuck in my 12 meters. Are those repeat offenders?
I don't know yet. This is really just my second time, so I haven't really gotten into the rhythm of seeing the repeat offenders yet, you know, so I'm trying to figure that out. I don't think so. You know, there's a few that sometimes when they change out the meter, we have to just commission them. So it depends. I think some of those are just newer meters that, they haven't been commissioned yet, so the system's not picking them up.
Okay.
They're working, but they're not quite in the system for Tyler, and Centrix to grab that read.
Well, many of us on the board, when we were wrestling with the decision about whether to go with these radio read meters, were lulled into thinking that they're going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. There's not going to be any errors. We don't need any meter readers anymore. And I guess I should have looked into that more carefully, because doesn't Mueller have a certain percentage of leniency in performance of their whole installation? Like they expect each month to have a certain amount of efficiencies on the reads.
I believe, don't quote me, I believe it was 98%. And again, we're close to that at this point. And some of the errors, I don't know, are just maybe equipment that we're replacing. We did have some theft down in the Jennyland area. So that was, once those got fixed, then all of a sudden, that's why we saw this increase right now. And, back to your comment on sliced bread, I really like sliced bread. It makes a good peanut butter and jelly sandwich, really convenient. But the meters, I am pretty impressed with them. They are working really, really well. It is nice to go in there and then I can automatically ping that read. So if I see a meter that hasn't read in 3 days, I can force a read from my desk. And sometimes it's quick, sometimes it takes a while, but you can get that read and it'll update it right there. And I think that's pretty amazing. And I think it's a pretty good system. I use mine. I use my account all the time to check to make sure, if it's working, and just to see the back side of it, the back end. And my meter for my home, it's worked really well.
And we used to have 2 full-time meter readers. All they did was meters full-time, and we're down to half a day or maybe a day per billing cycle that the distribution crews cover. And those meter readers are now part of the distribution crews. It has delivered, on much of what the promise was. It's been, a painful transition at some points along the way, but learning a lot.
Kelly, I think you did a great job on this report. If it's all right with you, I just have some questions as I go through it. You lined everything up really well. Obviously, some of these things you have to guess and say, well, it'll probably be double. I get it. But we are looking at an increase of roughly, $80,000 a year in operating costs as it reads here. But when I was reading your report, I saw, obviously there's the challenges that you pointed out very well and the opportunities as well. But there's just a tremendous amount of opportunities that I'm looking at that I think we will work on. We can run in parallel as we head towards a monthly billing cycle, and as well as putting things on, certainly, trying to get people out of the credit card business, going to drive down our costs. You talked about the telemetry and trying to cut down on the work hours, paper reads, handheld reads. Those all add up. That's 18,000 a year. Maybe we start taking 25% off. And I think it cumulatively will begin to add up. And it seems like a really great, when we're going in this momentum about billing, just do this stuff all at the same time. Bring people along. New day. My back of it, you may not need a two people to ride in the passenger seat if it's just telemetry's picking up when you drive by the repeater. It may not, things are changing. Technology, the work you're doing with Tyler, getting those 13 items that they put together for. Anyway, the items they put together with Tyler, knocking that out. It seems like there's a lot of upsides to this AMI, and maybe it'll prove it is better than sliced bread. Although I'm with you, I like sliced bread a lot.
Tough to beat.
But I mean, really, I thought you did a really nice job in putting these together. And I think really the low hanging fruit is going to be efficiencies and then getting people off these fees. And I can see how this has gone 5, 6, 7 years of credit card fees really changed the dynamic. I mean, I don't think anybody like this.
Yeah. And, with auto pay, as of this morning, just in the last month, we've had 16 new enrollments and 30 this year. I mean, it's just that, and that's about been consistent every month. Is about that much, 16 to 20 new folks signing up for that auto pay. And it could be either the credit card fee or the check, but it's a very consistent rise in January. I think that was the most we've had with 3,385, I believe. So people are, some people actually don't mind the fees that we're seeing. We helped out a wonderful woman not too long ago from West Point. She had 4 different accounts up there. One was a rental, and so she wasn't worried about the renter, that they can pay their own bill. But we helped her write out on this computer and set her up with her 3 other accounts with that check, and she was very thankful that she didn't have to drive down here. So some people really actually appreciate it.
Yeah.
And the fees are unfortunate, but I think some people actually appreciate the convenience of it, and she really did. She didn't want to come down here anymore and just, give
You
a
set her up,
check.
you said you set up with a e-check or did you set up with a credit card?
E-check. She chose e-check.
Great.
Yeah.
What do we have, a $2 per transition?
Yeah. And it's really an easy switch. To be honest, I was messing with my portal this weekend and I'm still on the credit card for whatever reason. I think because when I set it up, I didn't know where my routing number was. So it was just more laziness, but it's really easy. You can toggle it. You can have different payments on there. It's really quite easy to use.
As a credit card user, I like getting my airline miles because we all like to take a vacation on those every once in a while. But at the same time, it's not good for our organization. It's expensive.
That's really what it came down to is, that discussion was, look, are we buying airline miles and boards benefits for folks? This is not what CCFD funds should go towards. So
Right.
that's why we made that decision to recover.
But maybe as you guys think about this, maybe there's a way maybe there's an incentive. We'll give you $10 off next month if you transfer. Yes, it costs us, but we could do that math. Lots of people do incentive programs. It just seems like, you've accounted for all this stuff. It was interesting. 75% of our costs are in postage. So going electronic, boom, obvious. I know you've done that great with 72% of our people checking the online portal. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You've
And
got them halfway there.
yeah, and like you said, the postage, I broke down the postage. I didn't really put it on here. I did say that 75%, but just in December for that bill cycle, the postage alone was 3,782 just for postage, just for stamps. That's not the processing and the actual printing and the ink and all that and stuffing the envelopes. That was just for postage.
Yeah.
So, and another thing that I've been looking into is with Tyler, they have the ability to do automatic late notices or, reminders. So we've been using the automated system through Tyler for some of our outages. Like for instance, today through the A to B project, they're doing a shutdown for about 30 customers or so. So last week I was able to pretty much draw a polygon around the area that they're doing the construction. That pulls in all the accounts within that polygon. I picked all the services that the field staff have told me will be affected, and I sent out an automated notification. It texts them and it's a phone call. So if their information's up to date on Tyler, they can get an automatic notification that way. I mean, that's how I get my notifications through text and phone for my water usage at home. I set my parameters really low, so I always get them, just to always kind of make sure it works and just to know the system. And it works really well, except for, if folks don't have updated contact information. And we had one today where they didn't get the phone notification. We did hang a door tag, but he didn't see it. But then our customer service staff was able to make contact with him, and they noticed that the phone number on file wasn't the number that they were calling from. So we were able to update that today. And so next time, now they will get a notification. And so Tyler does have that ability for notifications where maybe we can also save costs with late notices. And that's something we can look into as well if we need to do late notices.
I mean, we're very fortunate and you are very tech savvy. I don't know if you ever anticipated you were going to be a techie guy, but you're a pretty techie guy in my book. And I really think that, merging these strategic plan of going to monthly billing and talking about the sewer rates, going through that learning process in parallel with this real, evolution. Like you've got all the tools. Now you've got the opportunity to really implement them in a way that, it's easier to, paint your whole house than sometimes just part of your house.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great opportunity and it could be a nice fit for you guys.
He learned how to do all this stuff when he was working up on the path.
I guess, I mean, that's what they say. Arnold's old techie. Yeah.
Can I just echo something real quick, Director Garamendi? Kelly, I completely agree. Fantastic job on the staff report. The breakdown is really clear, really comprehensive. and I almost overthought it a little bit last week because we talked about how, and I'm really glad the way you put it, it came through in the staff report that we're kind of just applying well, if we're going to do it twice as much, then double the cost, which may not necessarily be the way it turns out. We're going to look for every opportunity to be more efficient, as we go through this process. And so, in the end, left all that information in there, and I'm glad we did. And I'm glad it also came through that, just because that's double the cost, that doesn't mean what we're actually going to end up paying, because we'll find ways to bring it.
But it was the right information to present.
Really, really well done.
Well, one thing I'd like to also bring up just to plant the seed is, the leak adjustments. I mean, going from a bi-monthly to a monthly, we could see, let's say someone does have a leak that spans, they're on vacation, it spans a long time, then there's a leak adjustment. So we don't know really what the cost savings could be to the district with that as well. I mean, not only is that better for our customers because we might be able to identify those leaks much sooner, but then also, I think it helps us with processing those leak adjustments. I mean, it does take our staff time to go through and process that. And so I think that could be a good thing, because we have seen sometimes where, leaks don't necessarily get noticed, and then they call us. And again, if we can have that in a month snapshot as opposed to 2, I think there could be some benefits there as well for both the organization and our customers.
I'm still new enough to this organization that I'm still learning tons of stuff. And I asked a couple of our customers the other day about bi-monthly, and this is not a scientific study, but they all kind of came back and said, yeah, I can't even remember what I did last week. So how am I supposed to remember 2 months? And I thought to myself, well, yeah, I get my insurance bills me every 6 months, right? Most of ours do. Know what date that is? I can't ever remember. So maybe giving that monthly would maybe help out people psychologically, if not financially.
Yeah.
Well, it would help out someone simple like myself. So,
But they will, customers will be hearing from us more. I notice with my PG&E, I feel like I get a PG&E bill every week or two, because you get hey, your bill's coming. Hey, your bill is due now. Thank you for paying your bill. Then all of a sudden, a week later, you get your next bill. I feel like I'm paying a PG&E bill once a week, just because of the notifications, because they're warning you it's coming up. They're telling you here's your payment, and then they're thanking you for it. So I feel like I get a lot of notices from PG&E.
there's no easy way to ask someone for money.
Yeah.
Just what we have to go through. Thank you.
Okay, so are there any persons online that would like to comment on this report?
No online comment.
All right, so is it our responsibility to recommend to the board that we proceed with this movement toward monthly billing?
I mean,
Is that what you're-
I think there's going to be lots of steps. I think this was very informative. I don't know. Do you want to share it with the board? Or
Good.
we could just add it into file when we have it, when this item comes up for the agenda again?
It's a good question because, as you said, there's still more work to do here to figure out exactly, what the steps would be and what the timeline is. So we could bring that back to Finance Committee again next month and share it with the board when we have more comprehensive information.
I think this was exactly the kind of stuff we need to talk about.
Yep.
If we do bring it back to the full board, is there anything more you'd like to dive into? Does it cover it in your eyes, or?
My guess is that as you go through this process, this report will expand. As you gather more information about how you're going to use telemetry, how we're going to use Tyler more efficiently, how we're going to go out and sell people getting off credit cards. I think this is a base document that will just grow out. And be like the first draft.
I agree. And I guess the one question we had for the committee today was whether or not we want to try to address that small gap to get back up to 85% in the surcharge. My thought, and feel free to disagree if you guys feel differently about this, but because there's so much changing, maybe we wait for now until we see how this all plays out, until we make any changes to the percentage surcharge.
I agree, we should leave it alone.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I like that we're talking about it. You know, I think there has been some negativity around the, you know, people call it a convenience fee. At least now we're talking about it and showing, you know, we're not quite recouping all our costs. And so we can really explain. I think that's this would be a good educational component for the community, just to understand what that fee really is, why we're doing it, and the fact that we're not even, you know, recouping quite all of it. So I think I'm glad we're at least discussing that.
Internal Affairs Committee's agenda is getting.
I know, I noticed you keep just, yeah, you're filling that one up pretty good.
Tell me more about how you get notices on your phone or
Oh.
on your wristwatch.
Well, it's just attached to my phone. And so anything like any text or whatever come through here. So I'll get the text it'll say my address and it'll say abnormal usage. And is that what you're talking about, like with the portal
Well,
or in general?
is that coming through the portal or do you have some backdoor?
No, through the portal. And so I have the portal set up to email me, call me, and text me. And so I chose that. You don't have to have all three of those, but I want to make sure they're all working and I like to see how it looks. And then abnormal water usage is a consistent water leak for 24 hours straight, you know, typical of like a toilet or anything else. And so that's just going to give you an abnormal. Then you can set specific parameters for daily and billing cycle. And you can even set vacation thresholds. So if you're going to leave for a certain amount of time, let's say you're going to be gone next week, you can go in there and, you know, toggle on the vacation threshold, put the days you're gone, and then set the parameters, and it'll notify you. It's not real time. So right now, as we speak, if I had a major leak right now, I probably won't know till later on this evening or maybe tomorrow morning. So it's not exactly real time, but it's pretty darn close.
Tell me what you know about the device called the Flume. Would our customers benefit in having a Flume device installed in addition to capability with our meters?
Are you talking about those automatic
Yeah.
sensors?
So,
Yeah.
well, go ahead. Go, sorry.
I don't know a lot about them. I've seen a lot of buzz about them, and some people are claiming that insurance companies are making them put them on there. Again, I don't have one. I don't know if that's just social media misinformation, but I have seen that on social media where people are saying, oh, the insurance company is asking us to put this on our home. But yeah, that's a whole separate device, and that would be completely on the, you know, the customer's plumbing.
But it's basically something they're putting into the system that does essentially what our customer portal already does. To my knowledge, I'm not an expert on the Flume system either, but I don't know that it adds anything that our system can't already offer.
Well, they ordinarily get attached to the incoming pipe at the house. So if the customer had a leak in between the house, it wouldn't show anything. Flume device wouldn't notice any increase in use. Normally would be monitored. I just, we can talk offline about some experience that I had with that.
I mean, I think my advice to customers would be, you know, just take a close look at it to see if it offers more than what we're already providing.
Okay, well, all these capabilities, the various layers of capabilities that this our portal and the methodology there presents, is there a tutorial of any kind on the web page or that would explain to people how they go step by step to?
I have started a tutorial. We've been using this software called Scribe, and it's kind of basically what I can do. So I haven't finished it, so I haven't launched it yet, but it was for setting up leak alerts.
Mhm.
And it's really pretty interesting. And so actually, it's kind of a funny story. I use my own account, and then you start the Scribe, and you go on and just do it. And then every click gets recorded. And then I can blur out my name and my account and my address and all that. But what's interesting is to set mine up, I went in there and cleared all my account. And so I didn't, because I didn't want my, you know, my personal email out there in the world. So when I signed it up, I just did, you know, John Doe at 1234, .com. And then I did my phone number fake. And I did this whole tutorial, made it, and I'm polishing it, but I forgot to go back in and update all my emails and stuff. So I didn't get notifications for a few weeks because I had set my account to these fake email addresses. So, and then on the back end, I can see the system was trying to send me that email and it said failed because it's not a real email. So I kind of learned that the hard way, but I am working on a tutorial. I'm just not quite finished with it yet. And I can have it kind of, voice over through it, and it kind of tells you what to click, and that'll be, I think, helpful. But right now, our customer service staff, we can log in to that portal and kind of walk customers through it. And I hear them having the conversation several times every day. We're constantly, every time we have that that phone conversation with a customer, we're trying to encourage the portal.
Kelly, if you come up with a plan as we building our budget for next year, our 26, 27 budget, if you came up with a plan that said you needed X amount of dollars because it's going to take us more online, change our customer base, and we made that a strategic focus of getting digital people to sign up for this stuff because it's going to save us money in the long run. If that was something that you needed some coin, that would be something that I would be supportive of within reason. Just because if it took a little incentive to get people to move over, and it's an investment in the long run for our program, I'd be very interested in that type of opportunity. If we gave you $10,000 and you were able to turn that into 30 and 18 months by savings,
Yeah.
that's a good investment.
I think that's great to hear. Thank you. And one thing that comes to mind is, like, I would love to get out there, maybe even set up a table in front of the grocery store and talk to some of these folks through how to set it up, like help them, because we hear that too, that some people are timid about technology or not understanding it. And so it would be nice to have a tutorial or actually just sit down with someone and say, okay, let's get you set up. Here's how this works, and because it is intimidating if you don't know how to do it. I think once, some of these folks learn, they actually really might like that, and it might really save, it's good customer service as well, and save the customer a lot of heartache.
Pick up a bunch of interns this summer and set them loose.
That'd be great. I mean, I always have, when I do the outreach, I always have an iPad that's just hooked. The only thing I can hook to is our website. And so I do talk people through it. But the hard part is, the only caveat is you kind of need your previous bill. And so what I'd like to do is just get up my game a little bit and be ready there to look up their account right then and there. So I've thought about that. I'd like to do that.
Creative add-on. They'll come up with some good answers.
That's a good
Yeah.
idea. Even in the booth we do at the fair,
Yeah.
have people log in, setting up their account right there.
Good at senior centers.
Yeah.
I don't know. We have a lot of senior citizens here, and while they are very hesitant sometimes to go to not write a check, they're actually the fastest growing users of the internet.
Yeah.
So they want to get there too.
Yeah, and we experienced it, like I said, when I referenced that earlier,
President
one of our
Government.
customers here, she was very, very appreciative of it. She left, smiling and thanking us. And, she was glad that,
I just think of, things we do for our parents. It'd be great.
absolutely.
Mentioned earlier that Tyler was surprised that you were able to print a report that they didn't think was available. Is there any way, not necessarily to monetize what you're doing, but other Tyler customers that might be struggling with the same types of decisions we're talking about here? Are we going to make that information available to them?
Oh, I don't think we did anything like revolutionary or anything. It was just basically, I was pre-running the report last week for this cycle because I just wanted to see I was kind of prepping myself. And there was just basically a button where you hit either get reads or process. And I was able to just update it. And she was surprised. I think the disconnect or what threw her off is the portal that where, it does update every day. So we're able to see that. And so then you can just hit get reads really quick and it's going to give you the most current reads right now. And she thought that wasn't set up yet. That's what it's intended to do when it's finally set up, but it worked great. And I went through it with her and showed her. She was pleasantly surprised. It was just nice because, again, I was just trying to get an idea of how many reads our staff might have to go out and do.
Right. But on that same line of questioning, seems to me that there would be opportunities for other agencies that are struggling with the same extraordinary cost of credit card billings. That as we work through this, if we come up with a better mousetrap, better solutions, that we ought to share that information with other similar organizations. If they in fact exist, I don't know. Everybody has already solved this problem and we're just struggling with it.
Kelly giving a presentation at the next Aqua conference in December about how successful.
Or to your point, even more directly, because we do talk to other Tyler users, and there is a Tyler conference that we've sent people to in the past. We're going to do it again this year. So there's opportunities for exchanges to happen.
No, you're very much an introvert, so you probably wouldn't enjoy doing that.
But let's make it proprietary and license it first, and then we'll start.
Right. That's what I meant by monetizing it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Good job.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Good report.
Thank you.
Does our general manager have any comments?
Couple of brief comments. Just welcome again to Kelly. I think first finance committee, right? That's right. So it's is it everything you hoped it would be? All right. Good. And we also have our new accounting tech who started today. Julie Johnson is in the building, and that's great. We're getting staffed back up in admin services. So teams coming together. We're really excited to have her. And then the only other thing I'll mention, I think we talked a little bit about the tour that we did last week with a couple of directors, Director Davidson, Director Robertson. And I talked to Kelly G about it afterwards. And yeah, Kelly Z, Damon and Kevin all joined us. It's really, I think, impactful to go up to our sawmill tank. And so I think we need to prioritize, scheduling another time to get the rest of the board up there. Because it is of the infrastructure that we have, it's one of the pieces of infrastructure that we stand there in awe of just the terrain, the distances that we're covering, and the difficulty and access and age of the infrastructure. All of it kind of comes together at that one site. I hadn't been up there in a while, so it was a reminder for me as well. So if you want to do it now, you would need snowshoes or cross-country skis or something along those lines. That's how hard it is to get up there. I don't know, side by side, I guess, could probably get us up there still, but I think that gives you the full effect if you have to, walk up there with a gallon of gas on your back to keep that generator going. And it really does kind of bring it into focus in a lot of ways. And we have a big construction project going on there. The tanks, they're our largest tank and our oldest tank, and we've awarded the contract to replace it. And so as we start these big projects, and the other stop on that tour is Arnold Wastewater, because we awarded a contract for a big project there. The board's going to hear more and more updates on these projects, and so I think it's always good to get on the ground and eyes on it. So we'll find another time to do that, and I'm sure everybody has that opportunity.
Sorry, I couldn't make it.
Yeah, no problem. It's we'll get it. That's all I have for now. Well, other than just a reminder, the board meeting on the 25th has been canceled and is rescheduled to March 4th, and March 11th board meetings also.
Bring in preliminary budget when you get it in April to this committee.
April, probably not. We'll see where we're at. I think with the budget, it's possible.
We're going to see.
Typically we do, yes. Typically we bring preliminary budget to the finance committee in May. This year we were targeting that finance committee meeting in April to really focus on the revenue side of the budget, and an assessment of the need for the scheduled rate increase in July. So we're looking at April, May for both of those items, but we'll keep you posted as we get closer to that.
Russ is patient with me and all my questions. The rest of the board probably doesn't want to do it. I appreciate the extra time.
Oh, yeah, that always comes to the finance committee first, preliminary budget.
I have one question for you that the connection here is finance and financial possible loss, but that terrible break in a 14
Oh,
foot
man.
diameter conduit.
Yeah.
You know, we had this terrible washout up on the pass. But what if our water course wasn't nearby and it could go down a normal flowing crevice or creek? What if it had gone through the middle of somebody's house? What?
Those are damages we'd be liable for. And we are, I mean, we have claims for, usually fairly small. But if we cause damage to somebody else's property, look for that damage. So the penstock, I think, is the one you're referring to,
Right.
that at Bullard's Bar. And it didn't affect private property so much as its own, just the stability of that powerhouse and their own infrastructure, the cost of that. I mean, it could be a year and tens of millions of dollars of and out for a year, and that's their biggest powerhouse.
Are they part of our JPIA?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I'm waiting, I reached out to their GM and their general counsel over the weekend just in case there was any support we could offer. I think they got a lot of other offers of support and there's nothing we could do right now. It's one of those situations where you want to jump in your truck and go and you're just going to be in the way. And so they were both grateful for that, but they're also both, I'm not going to start peppering them with questions yet. But to me, there's so many questions and there's going to be major investigations and after action reports to talk about how it happened and why it happened. And they had just come out of an outage, but was it anything that could have been prevented, or is it just thing that happens when you have high pressure penstock? So I'm sure there'll be a lot of that, but I'm just as curious on the financial side. Was there, because I don't know that the JPA does cover penstocks. So Utica, we didn't have insurance for that, at least not in that case. I don't know if that's true everywhere. And so was it covered? Is it coverable at all? And if not, Yuba's in a good position, financially, I think, compared to a lot of water agencies, because of that powerhouse and the others that they have. But so I'm assuming they're also a really well-run organization, really good management team. So I'm assuming they have reserves set aside, but this is a huge, huge hit for them. So, oh yeah, it's a nightmare scenario. No agency wants to see that happen.
Oh, Billy Whittlesey.
I reached out to Gary Bradford. Michael said he reached out. Appreciate it. Correct. They've got big neighbors next door.
Whittlesey is the kind of bright star in the business.
He really is.
Good guy. Very well-known intellect.
I mean, it's such a big incident. It's gonna be maybe not quite on the par of Oroville Spillway, but there'll be a lot of lessons learned. It's probably gonna get tired of talking about it because we are all wanting to learn from what happened, and there'll be regulatory response to it too. It'll impact all of us. There'll be a lot more on this.
One photo that I was looking at closely looked like that they may have to do some dredging in the river. Outside, watch down.
Yeah.
Big machines.
Okay, does that conclude your report?
Yes, sir.
Director comments. Do you have a comment, Director?
I've made plenty of comments. Thank you.
Finance, but having will solidify our financial. Good time for recharging groundwater.
And snowpack.
Yes.
So, Mr. Chair, our next meeting is on St. Patrick's Day. Are we doing that meeting in Murphy's?
Good.
Nice relaxed afternoon up there.
And I saw that days before my birthday. We could have a combined event. Okay. Yeah, I don't have anything to add to this. Very enjoyable meeting. With that, I think this meeting is duly adjourned.
Thank you.